Hello team, how's it going? Welcome to Combat Ready HQ and welcome to today's newest video where we are checking out a new series of the Swedish Afghanistan documentary War for Peace. We're starting off with episode 1 out of 6. Comment below with what your thoughts are. You can always check out the original video in the description as well. But what we'll do, get into it. Remember to like, share and subscribe with what your thoughts are and what you want to see next. Let's go. Portugal's quite a bit of land.
During our tour of duty, we have seen many improvements. For the first time in years, daily life is improved for the poor people who have previously lived under Taliban terror. More children participate in school education. A parliamentary election has been held with 90% of the polling centers open in the area. The coordination between the Afghan authorities and ISAF has been improved. The general opinion is thus that the Afghan peace process is continuously taking steps forward.
So just quickly, I'll try not to stop it too much. It's mad, isn't it, how we're taking a step forward for peace to get the Taliban out. And then at the end of it, it was just completely handed back. They overran, mass evacuation. Americans left God knows how much kit and equipment. All the FOBs, checkpoints, bases that weren't fully destroyed were just left. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, yeah, year on year, we're taking a step forward to peace and stopping the Taliban ruling. And then ultimately, after 20 years, it was just like, here you go, have it back. Like, yeah, no proper handover, no proper, like, removal, no peacekeeping like the UK do in Cyprus or other nations. It's like, we can't do this in Afghan, we can't do that, you know, it's against human rights. It's just against all laws and rules. Well, it's not, because we do it in other nations. Kosovo, Bosnia, you know, it's ridiculous.
Nu ska vi passera genom ett pass här och där har vi haft sammanstöt med fienden tidigare. Vi ska flyga över topparna först med en liten radiostyrt flygplan med kamera för att se om det finns några fiender. Finns några fiender där så hoppas vi på att bomba dem.
Simple as that, straight to the point.
Ready?
So this must have been earlier in the days where rules of engagement were different. You couldn't just go bombing anyone towards the end, depending on what nation you were.
Kommer bli bra tromper.
Den afghanska säkerhetspolisen har rapporterat oroligheter i södra delen av det svenska ansvarsområdet. En 150 man stark trupp anländer till byn Yargan. I operationen ingår afghansk militär och polis tillsammans med svenska soldater. De har som uppgift att söka och gripa talibaner i området.
Is it school books for counting? Yes. Yeah. So that was the school? Yes. Dushman? Yeah.
They are against humanity, against human being, anywhere that they are. If we keep these books for our schools, we can teach our generation for the future of our country. The meaning of that sentence is, we start by the name of God. That's too bad for us that they even burned the name of God.
گفتن که ما اگر چی باشیم نمیخوایم امینا برایم و یک نشست گفتن که ما اونا را گفتن جواب کردن و دو نشست اینجا بودن.
Det är så här, talibanerna var här. 2 gånger de hade meeting här och han hade meeting med folket här och folket sa de andra gången, vi vill inte att talibanerna ska vara här i det här området.
Så att de var här fram till igår kväll.
قبلا سر و صدای بود در جاهای دیگری که اینا طالبان شمق به این منطقه ماندن مردم ها گمان میکردن که خواسته خود این مردم هست. همین چند قریه که های صاحب نامگیرو ما تا مرکز ولسوالی رفتم چون قریه ما مرکز ولسوالی هست دیده با مردم پس آمدم که هیچ کس خواسته هیچ نبوده که اینا در این منطقه را
با یک درگیری اینمیز یک غریب آدم است 10 لک 9 لک قرضه و 2 نفر پیسهش کاملا دکان درگیره در به در خاک بسر است دکان درگیره. بعد از او گفتیم اگر چاره نیست که امنیت شما همه رقم بگیرید شما ممکن امروز آمدین فردا پس میرین پس فردا پس میرین باز اونا میاین باز چی کنه این مردم بده.
This is what was really hard. So the way I did it when I was in Afghan was different because I worked out of checkpoints and PBs. So you had CPs and PBs, patrol bases and checkpoints, and you sort of had the area secure in a way because you were permanently based out there. Troops were based out of there, and then they secured the area, and we went on patrols every day to sort of keep the area secure. And then, you know, sometimes you'd be hit with IEDs. There could be contacts with the Taliban if they come in the area. Some areas were more heavily hit than others because they had a bigger Taliban presence. Others so less. What it looks like these do here, which was some guys were doing from all nations. You had BRF, you had special ops and all sorts. They would basically patrol out, do long range recce's, and then they would go and find the fight with the Taliban, secure areas, and then come back and go to a different location and go back out. And the issue with that is you would just go out, you would engage with the enemy, go back, and then the Taliban would just move back in. And that sounds like what's here. When you're in a CP, you sort of had it secure in a way, especially towards the end of Afghan, because you always had a presence there. So it was hard for obviously the Taliban to build a stronghold. So the people were constantly being threatened. They were always threatened. Do this, don't speak to the foreigners, otherwise we will do this to you. So it was very tricky. Obviously Afghan's a massive area and there was only so much we could cover. So yeah, that was the issue they have, and that looks like what was going here. They were going out, finding the enemy, the Taliban, and then moving back, and then the Taliban would move right back in, which has pretty much happened. As soon as everyone started to withdraw, you know, the Taliban just moved back in. They always had a presence there. They were a large enemy force. They also blended in. They had out of country fighters coming in. So yeah, very, very tricky. You know, no one's actually ever beaten them, have they? You know, the Russians tried, they couldn't. Very tricky.
I Afghanistan tjänstgör drygt 500 svenska soldater 6
Same as the
månader
UK,
i
it's what we
taget.
did, 6 months.
Huvuddelen av personalen är posterad på Camp Northern Lights i Mazar-e-Sharif.
Good camp name.
Under 2010 dödades 3 svenska soldater. Den 16 oktober förlorade skytteplutonen Alpha Quebec vännen och kollegan Kenneth. Under strid körde de på en vägmina.
Det är en solid plåt, det är inga skarvar här.
Det är kärnan i explosionen.
Ja. Och där ser du bakkanten på vagnchefsluckan, bakre.
Förstå trycket där.
Axeln, clean off liksom. Det
stegar ganska duktigt.
här utifrån själva platsen.
Okay, that.
Du har lite armeringsjärn som sticker upp där, någon brottstycken.
Vet du vad, en jävla smäll.
Men visst var det påskjuten med en fin kaliber där också?
Ja. Men vi besvarade den ganska ordentligt.
Det var typ 200 meter?
Ja, 300. Bortåt 400 till och med kanske. Men det var rätt mycket att hantera just då. Kenneth Wallin var mitt ansvar. Det var mitt beslut att framrycka som vi gjorde. Han var mitt ansvar. Och det är någonting man får leva med resten av sitt liv.
This is another, sorry for pausing again, but this is another issue you had. This poor lad's poor officer, you know, ultimately it's on the section commander, the platoon sergeant or platoon commander normally, depending on how big the patrol is and what sort of unit it is, we're going out and they've got to make those calls, those commands, those orders. You've got to give it, and you know, your men trust you majority of the time, especially if you're a good leader. And they go out, and what would normally happen is they would build, you know, plant these IEDs, and they got bigger and bigger, and they got harder to detect, a lot less metal, and then they would have an aiming marker, so you could have rocks, posts. So when you're out on patrol, you're looking for these aiming markers, right? That could be an aiming marker, that could be an aiming marker. Is there any disturbed ground there? And you're constantly looking out for this, and then they'd wait for your vehicle or your patrol to walk up to this aiming marker. They would be off somewhere, they would then detonate, and then they would ambush you. And then that commander's got to make that call. And sadly, someone lost their life. And now he's blaming himself and he's got to live with that. So it's not just the people with physical injuries or the fatalities, it's the mental. And some of the PTSD is, it's not just what they see in the constant explosions, you know, when they go out, they're constantly heightened. It's the, I've lost my friend, it's my fault. And that's what we're dealing with a lot now. Sad.
Och det är chefens slott. Så är det att vara militär.
Känns gärna overkligt på något konstigt sätt när man säger det. Vi bodde tillsammans, jag och Kenneth. Så när sen Kenneth stupade så då har jag bott själv. Det var först att jag ville att vi skulle stoppa in någon annan här. Men jag tänkte, jag lät det gå några dagar och fundera och så. Nej, jag tyckte det kändes okej och fortsätta. Det kändes rätt att göra det. Liksom det här var ju vår del så att säga, om man säger som så.
Det var 5 ombord.
Ja, 5 plus
6 med prästen.
Ja, prästen. 7 med Kenneth.
Han fick en egen stol.
Ja. Vi är ju inte hela när vi åker hem. Vi saknar en jätteviktig bit. Vi har inte Kenneth med oss. Så enkelt är det. Och jag känner en sorg och en saknad efter honom. Och det är också en påminnelse om det allvar vi möter här nere. Johan och Gunnar de stupar i februari. Kenneth nu i oktober. Det är inte slut än. Det är fler som kommer dö.
This is the seriousness of the war. It's where it really hits home, isn't it, for some people? The mood drops.
Jag tar den gärna i handen.
Han får bort huvudet.
Den afghanska säkerhetspolisen, NDS, har gett information som får styrkan att leta efter talibaner i området.
NDS har rapporterat att ett antal insurgenter som har varit i den här byn har nu dragit sig ur då, till en annan by. Och där är då ett stronghold som de kallar det då.
De lämnar Yargan för att ta sig närmare talibanerna. De rör sig mot en höjd nära Ngala.
Salima, det är jag går på.
Alla färdar till Sierra Lima, orientering. Då har ANP greppat en person med uniform som är civil. De ska bara ta sig tillbaka den. Därefter fortsätter vi framåt.
Så har det setts incidenter, 8 stycken. 2000 meter avstånd ifrån byn Bengala. Kom. Det som har hänt är att vi har byn framme här. Har vi fått i nordlig riktning finkalibrig eld, långa avstånd, inga fientliga verksamheter har vi sett och bara hört finkalibrig eld.
He's very open up on that hill there. It's the trouble sometimes with that sort of terrain.
They were seeing somebody right over there on that high top. On the top. And he was shooting from there.
Shooting? Zabit Dolay.
Acht Duchman.
Yes.
Acht Duchman.
One Dushman. There. Dushman.
Ja, okej. För att ta det rätta så har vi alltså en incident på höjdtid här uppe och 8 stycken på de lägre höjderna.
I wouldn't if I was him.
Stridskontakt med dem. Då får vi se här vad plutonchefen och mentorn kokar upp för plan här.
If I was them though, you're in an area, you know there's Taliban in the area, and you're scouting for them. You know, you've got your scopes out, your binoculars. You've done your cordon, you put out security, and they're like saying that there is Taliban over there. I don't know why they've got their helmets off. It's obviously just how they do it. The A&A always did it. Barely sometimes they didn't have helmets, or you might be with the police. They didn't have the same equipment, but the Swedish forces do. So I am very surprised that they don't have their helmets on right now. As I would, especially if they're like, there's one up there and 8 further down on a hill, and you have heard some sort of fire in the distance. You never know if there's a sniper out there. So I would have definitely kept my helmet on. I wouldn't be taking that off.